Initializing Next Life System. System ready.
What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Next Life. Today we're going to be talking about the future of education. I recently discovered, I was kind of doing some researching and looking at just like what kind of education is available these days, what is out there, and I found some really interesting school systems that take a drastically different approach to at least how I grew up and the system that I was brought up in. I don't know if you would agree with me, but like for me, the education system did not work at all. I guess I would say what I mean by that is I'm more definitely as I am like 28 years now. I realize that I am a very dynamic individual that needs to be moving, needs to be like working on projects on my own, or at least at my own pace. And so I really embrace my independency when it comes to work. And so school for me was just like the complete opposite of that. It was like, sit at your seat, be quiet, do not move, listen to what this teacher is saying, and then memorize that, and then just spit it right back at the teacher, and that really never worked for me. Let's see what else it was. It was like, and I remember I always used to get in trouble for talking all the time, being social, connecting with other people, which seems completely counterproductive towards a society, because don't you want to be able to communicate and work with other people? Wouldn't that be like a huge proponent of what education really is? Well, obviously it was a different system back then, and that was a system that was really ultimately created in the 19th century. It was designed to create a specific type of product, and that product was type of individual that would sit on a bench for 8 to 12 hours a day, be quiet, and just work and not question authority. And so we've essentially kind of run into a problem where that sort of mentality will be very truly ineffective in the future, especially as robots are taking over those specific jobs. We are going to have, it's like that sort of line of thinking is going to be, as we talked about in past videos, 20 to 30 years, up to 50% of those jobs will be gone. And so it's been cool to see these. So I'm going to show you guys 4 different schools that I discovered that are really seeking to change the game with how they approach education and what their values are, and which are drastically different than what I just kind of shared before, this 19th century school system structure. So let's jump into the first one here that I found very interesting. This one's called Quest to Learn, and I found this one fascinating just because they really focus on gaming, integrating games within the learning structure. So basically, they're given complex tasks and problems that need to be solved with limited resources, and so they create games around this, and what they define as a game is something that's carefully designed, student-driven systems that are narrative-based, structured, interactive, and immersive. So just to give you guys an example of what that would be, they say like in a 9th grade biology class, students spend the year as workers in a fictional biotech company, and basically their job is to clone dinosaurs and create stable ecosystems for them. So through taking on this role of biotech scientists, they actually learn about genetics, biology, and ecology. And so that just gives you an idea of like how they approach things. But basically they put these students into like kind of like a imaginary setting and say, hey, okay, now like here's the problem, go solve it, and let's see what happens, and you're learning along the way. So I personally really like this approach because it really it almost disguises the learning process, or it's like whenever you're playing a game or any sort of video game, like you are learning. You have to learn. There are rules and there are like grounded things that you have to learn in order to get better, in order to like get to the next level. And so like although there is work involved in games, like you don't really ever think of it as work at all. And so I really like this process of like completely shifting perspectives and being like, yeah, let's go into this imaginary world. Like here's your tools, go do it, and come back to me when you complete the task. So I think that's a really cool way of approaching things, and yeah, definitely something I'd be interested in. The next school is called the Reggio Emilia school, and basically this one was a school that was developed in Italy just after World War II by a psychologist named Loris Malaguzzi. Himself and a bunch of parents in the village, basically right after the war, determined that they needed to change their school system. They were like fed up with it, and that they wanted to find a new way to teach their children. And basically these parents had a very strong philosophy in the fact that they believed that children, during the early years of their life, there was a development phase where their children have they have an opportunity to, or they have 100 different languages that can be expressed through them, and they need to determine which language is best for them to express their ideas. Basically, like an example of that is like, it's like, do you express your ideas through writing? Do you express your ideas through painting? Do you express your ideas through creating video? You know, how do you communicate things to the world? And so basically this whole curriculum is designed around like letting the students play. It's a very like I guess a loose structure. So an example of this is they have like recess. The children are outside, and basically a child looks at a flower and picks up the flower and asks the teacher a question about the flower, and then the teacher essentially creates a curriculum around that, and basically encourages the student to find their own answers regarding the flower and how it works, why it ballooned this way, why it looks this way, or answering the questions that are coming to them in the moment, rather than trying to I guess I would say create a curriculum. The curriculum creates itself, which is kind of a cool approach. This is kind of a similar approach to Montessori schools. Montessori schools are a very similar way in that they let their children like play, and they actually have, it's more structured in that they have things like they have different spaces around the school or around the classroom where basically they're designed for it's like, all right, here's the classroom, now go explore this classroom and see what happens. So I think it has a bit more of a structured approach, but it is very similar to this Reggio Emilia school. But back to the Regia, basically they're, let's see, so yeah, I think I got all that for that one. So yeah, it's a very cool, like, open style of learning, and basically it's kind of like an improvised style of learning that is pretty interesting. So that's the second type of school. The third one is one, and I've seen this one before in there was a German school system that had this, but this one's called Forest School, and basically for this one, students are basically encouraged to be outside every day, and through being outside they learn about the natural world. And so their mission is to encourage and inspire individuals of any age through positive outdoor experiences. And like I said, they use the natural world to engage their interests and develop their mental and physical capacities. So instead of using technology or designing a very structured curriculum, I guess I would say a indoor curriculum. I think that they still have a structured curriculum, but it's all based outside, and so that rain or shine, they're outside and they're interacting with the world and learning survival skills, learning how the natural world works, or why things are the way they are. And so it's a pretty cool way to basically understand more of like how the world works, and just first-hand, hands-on knowledge, interactive, immersive type of learning that uses the classroom that's already available to us, which is Mother Earth, and that's pretty awesome. So So that's the third one. The fourth school that I found interesting is the Ashoka. I want to say the Ashoka or the Ashaka. I'm going to say the Ashoka Changemaker School. And this school specifically focuses on empathy. And so they believe that empathy is a foundational skill on par with reading and math, and that essentially it plays a crucial role in innovation, change making, and solving systemic problems. So basically, they apply this aspect of empathy, and they really focus on actually developing social engineers or social entrepreneurs that can essentially go out and work in teams and solve problems and lead the world and ultimately drive change. So basically, their whole curriculum is based around that, around empathy, creativity, leadership, teamwork, and really understanding how to approach problems and solve them working together with a group of people. So again, that's another different approach where they're, it's more so focus on this, I guess, this human quality rather than it's less about, like, I guess I would say, discovering what your language it's less about discovering what your language of communication is, or your language of, like, sharing ideas, and more so discovered on how you can more effectively work with other people and work with groups to inspire change. So definitely a different approach, but another really interesting approach to education that I think is going to be truly effective and useful in different ways as well. So that's definitely the first time I've heard of that school. But anyways, those are the 4 schools that I've seen. I'll probably have to do more of these because I'm sure there's a ton of other cool schools. Most of these, I don't think really any of these are very focused on technology. Except for, I think, Quest to Learn has a bit of technological focus, but I'm sure there's some crazy high-tech schools out there as well. So if you know any interesting schools that you think would be interesting in checking out, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Peace and love, my friends.